Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. This is Kay back at it with a new video. Today I'm going to talk about which is the better option for you. Is it to buy a house or is it to rent? Let's get started. Well, if you decide to buy a house, it's pretty cut and dry. All you need is the money, your deposit if they require one, and possibly having good credit depending on where you want to live. If you decide to live in an area that's really desirable, you're going to pay more rent and they're going to be more scrutinized as far as with your credit and past history. You'll probably have to pay some type of deposit to have your credit checked, which normally runs anywhere from $50 to maybe 100 or more. And be prepared to lose money shelling out money for the credit checks because management companies also make money off the credit checks as well. If you have a line of people that want the same place, chances are the management company is going to make a few dollars over. I used to be a property owner, and you can charge if you charge $50. I'm just throwing a number out there, and it only costs $25 for the credit check. Well, you made $25, and if you let it go for a while to get more applicants, that can be pretty profitable as well. Now, let's talk about what type of apartments you want. Well, if you want a really nice apartment in a high rise, top floors, generally it's going to cost you a lot of money and you're going to have less space. If you rent a house, generally a house is going to cost you more to rent because you get the whole place to yourself. You generally get a basement if they have one. You get the backyard, and you most likely get a slot or both slots in the garage. Now, in some instances, the owner might charge you additional to rent a garage, and that's pretty standard. He might charge you anywhere from $100 to $200, or only give you one slot in the garage, and then if you want the other one, then you got to pay a little extra. But all in all, you get the whole place to yourself. You don't have anyone above you, anyone below you. Now, if you decide to get an apartment, now you share, it's a communal type deal, whereas the other people live above you, possibly below you, and you have a common areas, and then you might not get a yard depending on how much land comes with the property. You probably wind up going to a forest preserve or some type of neighborhood park if you want to relax or barbecue or things like that. So, apartment would be cheaper than a house, but with the house, everything is on you. You pay all the bills, as far as heating it, cooling it, um, and in most instances, it's either included in the rent or you have to hire someone to shovel the snow if you're in that type of climate, or rake the leaves, or do the landscape on the outside of the property. Now, if that's something that you don't want to do, the owner can possibly pay it and then it comes out of your rent, or he'll just take care of it and then just put it in the rent. Either way, it's going to get done. And, you're not really responsible for if the furnace goes out or the hot water goes out. That's in your rent, so you don't have to worry about that. And the benefits to rent a house that you can always move the following year. You're not obligated to stay if you don't want to. And same with apartment. Now, if you don't have good credit, chances are that, it might be tough for you to get a desirable apartment in certain areas, or if you have evictions on your record, that can make it almost difficult for you to get certain areas or certain nice apartments. So let's talk about the rents. Well, it used to be people used to say, well, it's cheaper just to rent, but not anymore because everything is so expensive. You know, the average studio can cost as much as $1,000, and a three-bedroom apartment can cost as much as $1,700 to $1,800. And what about that house? A house can go anywhere from $1,900 on up, depending on where you're living at and depending on how nice it is. Well, let's talk about buying a house. Well, now you're finna spend some real money because one, you're buying it and you're not renting. So let's say if you buy a house, now you got to have a deposit that you have to put down on the house that you want. Most sellers will probably accept anywhere from $1,000 to maybe $5,000, depending on where you are, to put down on the property, and then you do a contract. From there, you got to get an attorney, and an attorney can cost anywhere from 500 on up to represent you in your purchase, and then you got to pay a title company to make sure that there's no liens or other obligations on the property you're trying to buy, and then you got to get a survey, which is your boundaries on the property that you're trying to buy, and then you also have to maybe pay the insurance up for a year, possibly your water as well. Then you have to then you have to um, change all the locks once you move in there or get them rekeyed because you don't want to have the locks that the owner had on the property because you don't know who's got keys. And then depending on what type of property you buy, you might have to do some fixing it up, if it's not already ready to go. So let's say if you bought a house as is, you probably have to get some paint, patch some holes, do some flooring, do some wall work, and the list goes on and on. So now you're going to spend some money on that as well. And what about that? The amount that you have to put down with the bank. Where if you're a first time home buyer, you might be able to go through FHA, which is the Federal Housing Authority, and then you could put down as little as 3%. So 3% or whatever uh, the price is. Let's say, for the sake of saying, if the house costs $100,000, well, 3% of $100,000 is $3,000. So then you will put down $3,000. Let's say that you once owned a house. Well, you no longer qualify for FHA. Now you have to go conventional. So that can be anywhere from 10% to 20% to 30%, depending on what your credit look like and how the bank want to structure that loan. And these days, it's getting harder and harder to find starter homes that cost $100,000. I think the average now is about 250, and it's climbing closer to three. So it's gonna make it kind of difficult for the average blue collar worker that doesn't make a lot of money. So um, you're going to spend more money with a house. So, what's the advantages and the disadvantages? Well, the disadvantages to owning a house is that everything falls on you. If the boiler goes out, if the hot water tank goes out, if a pipe bursts, then you're responsible because, after all, it is your house. If you're renting, then you just pick up the phone and you call the landlord and say, hey, uh, I got a problem over here, and they'll send the maintenance team over to figure it out. So those are the things that you got to look at. If you're renting, you don't have to really worry about the outside of the property. And if it's a house, then they'll just, add the cost into the rent. But when you own a house, now you got to go buy your lawnmower and you got to cut the grass, or you got to hire some type of a landscaping company to do it for you. Everything falls on you. The taxes, the insurance, you name it, is yours. Now, let's talk about um, paying your mortgage. Well, it's just similar to owning renting an apartment. The mortgage company generally only gonna let you go about 3 months before they foreclose because most people, I've been a landlord for over 30 years, that once they fall behind past two payments, chances are they won't be able to catch up. So the mortgage company knows this as well, and they won't let you go as far as to that third payment. They looking to foreclose, and within a year or two, depending on your location and how hot that area is how soon they're gonna foreclose on you. So it's no more than rent an apartment, but with an apartment, you'll probably be out a lot sooner. So those are the pros and cons to owning and renting. I would say it's probably easier to rent an apartment and not have bad credit or any foreclosures on your record, because those are the things that can really cause problems for you when you want to get a decent area. And buying a house, it's going to take a considerable more amount of money to get that house. And most likely, you're going to be paying more. It used to be less, but it depends on where you are and how big that mortgage is. The average mortgage is about 250 on up. So, look to spend more money. So that's all I have. Let me know what you think. Again, this is Kate back at it with another K blog. And I'll see you in my next video, guys. Thank you. Take care.